According to World Bank ratings, Nigeria currently ranks 131 out of 190 economies on the ease of doing business. The ease of doing business ratings ranks countries based on how the regulatory environment is conducive to business operations through simpler and friendlier regulations for businesses and stronger protections of property rights by governments, among other key variables. To ensure the ease of doing business in the country, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Business Facilitation Bill 2022 into law. The Business Facilitation Act 2023 is a legislative intervention by the Presidential Enabling Business Environmental Council, which amends 21 business-related laws, removing bureaucratic constraints to doing business in Nigeria. The act claims or aims to promote the ease of doing business in Nigeria, eliminate bottlenecks, and institutionalize all reforms to ease implementation. Let's get an overview of this act, and I have the rightful person in the house. He's a lawyer and a manager with PricewaterhouseCoopers, Mr. Emmanuel Akpeme. Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Tolu.
It's been a while.
I always said, always a good time having these conversations with you.
Thank you so much. Well, it's great to have you here too. Well, before we delve into the details of this act, already I highlighted some of them in my introduction. Well, can you give us a background of events that led to the enactment of this law?
Yes, thank you, Tolu. So the Business Facilitation Act, right, by way of background, started sometime in 2016. So this was just roughly a year and some months after the President Buhari came into power, or into office in 2015. Then by July 2016, President Buhari set up the the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, called PEBEC.
Yes.
And this PEBEC...
Dr. Oduwole?
Yes, PEBEC was shared actually by the Vice President. Right? Now, the major or the purpose for the setting up of this council is to ensure that all forms of bureaucracy that goes with doing business and getting approvals, licenses, and all that, they are taken off, because that has been an issue years back. So this particular council was set up and they started work. A year after, in 2017, at the point when the Vice President was acting as the President in Nigeria, an executive order called Executive Order 001-2017 was issued by the acting President, Sibajo.
At that time?
At that time. He made this executive order, and so many things were highlighted there. So many portions, so many things that will improve business and the environment in Nigeria, and also ensure that the processes are transparent.
Yeah.
But there is an issue with this, because it is an executive order. It is not a law. So the extent to which it will be adhered to is limited. So between 2017 and 2022, 2023, the process of making this executive order into a legislation started. And that was what culminated in that signing into an act of the Business Facilitation Miscellaneous Provisions Act. So that is just the background of how this particular act that we saw in 2023 came about.
I actually followed some activities of PEBEC so very well there, a lot of stuff, one-stop shop. You have the likes of SON and everyone in one room, identifying the issues, addressing it at once. That was really commendable. But can you give us more highlights or into some key provisions of this act?
Thank you, Tolu. So, yes, the act, if I will call it BFA, right, the Business Facilitation Act, it is an act that is made up of 11 sections. So only 11 sections. The act, as I said earlier, only made the Executive Order 001 of 2017 made it into a law. So it's no longer an executive order, it's now a law, and made up of 11 sections. Under Section 9, that was where it's made provision for consequential provisions, consequential amendments. And that consequential amendment is what we now saw in the schedule of this particular act. And under the schedule, it amends 21, which you also mentioned in the intro, 21 laws. So the act itself is made up of 11 sections which codifies the Executive Order 001, and in its schedule, it now used the opportunity to make some consequential amendments to over 21 laws. We have laws like CAMA, we have laws like the Federal Reporting Council of Nigeria Act, we have laws like the Custom and Excise Act, we have so many of them listed out there. But for the Business Facilitation Act itself, three key provisions come out. And number one is that the processes for getting approvals, getting licenses from ministries, departments, and agencies of the government, they are now made transparent. The law which codified the Executive Order 001 now says that the process and the timelines for the issuance of these licenses, each of the MDAs must stipulate them and make them public so that everybody will see them. And people will know how they have to go about it. The requirements for even getting these approvals, getting these licenses must be either on their website or in a visible area in the ministry. So that is one point. Secondly, it also made mention of the fact that if for any reason I haven't stated the service levels that a particular application is to take, for example, say 14 days. If after 14 days, the MDA does not approve it or reject it, then there's always the law termed deemed or default approval. So if it is not approved within the stipulated time that the MDA itself has made public, then it will be deemed approved. So these are some of the key highlights of this particular Business Facilitation Act. Then for those other consequential amendments, some of the laws that the BFA amended, we have CAMA, for example. If you recall, at the point when CAMA 2020 was enacted, there was a provision about holding annual general meetings virtually, but it restricted it to only private companies. What BFA has come to do is to say, because it is a consequential amendment which also helps in easing the business environment, the business climate, and I said now that it can be for both public and private companies. It's no longer for only private companies. So a public company, imagine how much it will cost a particular public company to hold its annual general meeting. You know, renting the hall, sending invitation and all that. But with this virtual one, it is easier. And again, some persons who are not able to attend physically because maybe the headquarters or the venue is far away from where the shareholder is resident can now join the annual general meeting and make contribution. Another provision in BFA is about electronic voting. So CAMA has said, okay, it has to be by raise of hand, right? But now, this BFA has said, okay, you can actually vote electronically. So these are some of the points, but there are 21, and I believe any business-minded man or woman can look at those laws, this BFA, and see that it is really a laudable one, and it will help to ease the business climate in Nigeria.
I spoke to a guest yesterday, and he told me, he said, Nigeria, we have lots of laws, we have acts, we have all of this, that the issue most times is always how we implement them and actualize what they stand for. But I would ask you, that, do you see this achieving its objective? That is the most important thing. Ease of doing business, we should feel it, and it should also tell on the figures that come from the World Bank. That's talking about our position in that chart. So what do you think about around that space, and do you see us achieving the objective of this?
Okay, thank you, Tolu. To an extent, I agree with that, your guess, right? So the issue Nigeria always have is the issue of implementation. Yeah. Now, for the Business Facilitation Act, Nigeria, or our MDAs, since we are speaking about MDAs, there is the process issues and there is the people issues. Now, what the BFA has done is to create a platform for change. It has created a platform for the processes to be improved. It has, even in one of the provisions, it mentioned that for Corporate Affairs Commission, it must automate from end to end registration of companies, right? So it has brought about technological development and automation of processes. But Tolu, one of the major issue Nigeria has is the people problem. Is the people problem. No matter how great the technology is, no matter how wonderful the software is, the platform is, if the people who are to manage it, if the people who are to operate the platforms, if there is no change in their mindsets, if there is no change in the way they do things, then the issue will continue. By virtue of my role, I have opportunity to communicate and interact with a lot of these regulators. And I tell you, even when these things have been digitalized, you still have to go
to make you come to their offices. You're correct. They still make it. So that is
you
the
still
problem.
have to follow up physically. And we know when you
Which shouldn't be.
Which shouldn't be. And when you are dealing with these things, these challenges, and your client is telling you, how long will it take? How long will it take? You can't really give a specific timeline, right? So I agree. This is a
Investors don't have this time. The monies, some of these monies are hot monies. They need to land somewhere, and they will put it wherever seems to be conducive for better, them.
Right? So the point now is, even the law that has just been passed, for example, the default approval, people are happy that yes, if the particular timeline, they don't respond within that particular timeline, it is deemed approved. But do you know something about this same provision? It says if it is not approved within the timeline or rejected, it is deemed approved, default approval. But you have to now write to the minister. You have to write to the minister about what has happened so that there will be a certificate showing that it is approved. Tolu, do you know how long it takes for an application to get to the minister? In fact, there are instances when it might be that the delay is even coming between maybe either the director or deputy director to the minister. So some of these things, so the law is not is good, but it still has some drawbacks because even the default approval, it should be such that I believe it should be such that if it is automated, that okay, if within 14 days there is no reason, there should be like an automated certificate that is just generated to say this timeline has expired, and so this is the default. But including that further step of now writing to the minister of the MDA to issue a certificate is another drawback, which I feel is just taking us around the circle.
Because ultimately we want this to impact our rankings on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business. And I don't really want to look at the last report that we saw. It wasn't looking too good. Even states like Lagos and Abuja had issues, considering all of this issues around ease of doing business and what everyone is doing to support. But directly, do you think this can help shift us one way or the other up there?
Yes, I agree that in the short run, in the short term, there will likely be some marginal improvements. And why did I say this? When World Bank or some of all these corporations are looking at the survey, are looking at it, what they look at is the legislative environment, the regulatory environment. What are the laws that are in place that will support or improve ease of doing business in that country? So when the subsequent survey is done, currently Nigeria is 131 out of 190 economies, right? Now, when a further survey is done and they see that, the BFA in Nigeria has been enacted and it has these laudable provisions, it has the tendency in the short run to up our numbering or our ranking, right? But if, as what we just said, if these implementation is not looked into, if these people issues are not looked into, it will make it to see drop. So in the short term, because they will look at the business environment, they will look at the regulatory environment, what are the legislations? And they'll say BFA is there now, so it might up it. But after that, if there is still and investors are still saying, there's no improvement, even though the law is there, the improvement is not there, it will make it to drop subsequently. But at this point, there might be some improvement.
But can anything be done? Can you say it as a solution to this perennial issue of bureaucracy in Nigeria? It's affecting the business climate.
Personally, Tolu, the issue in this, the issue surrounding or the solution I want to propose on this is that there should be consequence management. There should be consequence for bad behavior in the civil service, across the MDAs. Now, PEBEC has been on since 2016. This is 2023.
Yeah.
I understand the executive order was issued in 2017, but between 2017, because executive order also has its own power, even though it's not a law. But between 2017 and 2023, what are the visible improvements in the ease of doing business in Nigeria? And if these visible improvements are marginal, what has made it, or what make the improvement not to be so much that we are seeing it better? Who have gone in for it? Because to take a step to immigration to process your international passport, and you tell me what is going on there, but you are aware that there is the platform. It is automated. There's a platform for you to go. But even though you feel it on the platform,
that is true.
Take a walk there, and you see what is happening there. Take a walk to the ports. Even though these laws, these executive orders have been in operation for over 5 years now, what is happening? Have there been anyone who has gone in for it? If there are consequences, if people there who do not follow these guidelines that have been put in place, these orders that have been put in place, if somebody is losing his job, if somebody is losing her job, if somebody is being suspended, and all these things and people are penalized, right? People see it. I tell you, Tolu, there will be a remarkable improvement in these approval processes and all that. So that is one of the things I see. So it's, as I said, it is good we have all this in place, the legislation in place, the technology in place, but the people is the major issue. And if they don't see the consequences of their bad behavior, they will continue doing it. So I believe the government should look into that very well.
It's always an interesting conversation with you, I must tell you, giving insights into this Business Facilitation Act, what it means and what we should expect. I must thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Akpeme. He's a friend of the house now. He's a lawyer and manager with PricewaterhouseCoopers. Thank you so much. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, too.
All right, then.